I'm recording this right after the Dallas Mavericks Los Angeles Clippers game. While it wasn't the greatest game 7, it was definitely an eventful and fun game. But I'm going to start with yesterday's games because unfortunately we weren't able to do a recap. And that was the Brooklyn Nets versus the Milwaukee Bucks. The Nets came out and just shot the lights out of the ball. It's insane. Just like watching the game, it felt like the Nets just were killing the Bucks. But if you look at the score and pretty much the whole game, it's not like, just at the end the Bucks kind of caught up. Well, they did a bit, but it was still, the Bucks were within 13 to 10 with their starters out there in the fourth. Giannis had a nice game, 34 points. Same with Brook Lopez. They had a great presence in the paint, and it was kind of weird. The Bucks kind of went away from that. They were shooting a lot of threes and not making them. Like, it was probably one of the worst shooting games they've had all year. They went 6 of 30 from the three-point line, shooting 20%. They're not going to do that a whole lot while they're, in my opinion, not the greatest three-point shooting team if you look at like player by player. I know they shot the lights out of the ball in the Heat series, but I don't think we're going to see that every game. But I also don't think we're going to see 6 for 30. I still think it's to be a very competitive series. The Nets hit 15 threes and shot 40. Harden went out early, literally in the first minute, and Durant was awesome. Kyrie Irving was awesome. Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, 18 and 14. 12 for Mike James. Not weirdly, but it was kind of cool. Like, Mike James really stepped up into that, especially with the second unit, was that James Harden type where he could score a bit, facilitate the offense. Obviously not to the same level as James Harden. No one can really do that in the NBA. Especially, Mike James is just a really nice role player with the Brooklyn Nets. Because, obviously, no doubt you're always going to be better with one of the best players in the NBA, especially a player of James Harden's caliber. I know, the playoff resume isn't necessarily there, but he's definitely a guy that you want out there all the time. From the Bucks, I liked how easy it was, honestly, for Giannis to get points in the paint. I think that was expected. I liked how easy it was kind of for Lopez. I'm not even the biggest Lopez fan. I didn't like when he was just purely like a spot-up three-point shooter. I'm glad they're using him more as a center. He's been a lot more effective because that's a way that they can really kill the Nets, is scoring in the paint, and I think that's going to be a big deal for them. They had so many offensive rebounds, especially in the first half and the second chance opportunities that they got. I think that's going to be a really, really big deal moving forward. And then on the flip side with the Nets, like, their defense I didn't think was any bad by any means. Like, I thought Durant was really good. I thought that they got good minutes from Blake Griffin. Nick Claxton was out there and switchable. He brings a lot to the table defensively. The ball movement for the Nets is insane. Like, how many open shots they create for each other. Obviously, when you have guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but they don't have to share the ball. They're such great scorers, but how much ball movement? Like, that's the biggest thing for the Nets. Like, the Bucks had like no real ball movement. Like, you're not gonna out ISO ball the Nets, like I was saying, but the Nets, like, they're not even like pure ISO ball. Like, they have such great ball movement. They move the ball so well. Maybe they're like second to like the Warriors that I've seen in a long time. Like, their ball movement was awesome. Blake Griffin was out there and hustling and getting scrappy. He was awesome on the offense end, was pretty good on the defense end as well. It's tough when he's guarding a guy like Giannis. Big mismatch, obviously. In the first half, 11 offense rebounds for the Bucks and 4 offense rebounds for the Nets. Like, that's a big deal. There's a big difference there. Also, free throws. Free throws are a big deal for the Bucks. They're not the greatest free throw shooting team, especially with Giannis down the stretch. They went 11 of 19 from the free throw line. The Nets went 8 of 9. The Nets will probably even get more free throw attempts. Like, they don't miss their free throws, really. Unless it's like a guy like Nick Claxton or maybe Blake Griffin. I thought Lopez was playing way too far back in the pick and rolls. Way too easy for Durant and Kyrie to score. He needs to find it's going to be tough because if he's playing drop coverage too far back, KD and Kyrie are going to hit that shot every time. If he's too far up, obviously they're going to blow by him. So that's going to be tough. He's going to have to find a right way to show the perfect spot, honestly, and that's going to be tough because, honestly, even if you are in the right position, these guys are going to make the right decision all the time, but at least try and make it as tough as possible. I thought Coach Bud was pretty rough in this game, honestly. How early he took Giannis out. I believe he took Giannis out at the 6-minute mark in the first quarter, not playing him over 40 minutes. The fact that they really went away from, like, bringing the ball in the paint, really. Like, Giving it to Giannis and Lopez to work in the paint was kind of ridiculous. I don't know. I guess it's what we've come to expect from Coach Bud at this point. I thought things could be different because he seemed to be doing a bit better of a job since the Bucks were finally switching and, guarding the three-point line and whatnot. I personally would like to see more Drew and Middleton and Giannis in the pick and roll, any variation of those players, because they honestly work so well off each other in the pick and roll, and Middleton and Drew can shoot it, and obviously Giannis is probably one of the most scary players rolling to the rim. Pretty much no one can stop him if he's rolling to the rim or has a head start to the rim. The Bucks hit their first 2 3-pointers in like the first 2 minutes of the game, and then only hit 2 until sorry. I wrote it down as 2 and to start the third, but at the end of the fourth, they only hit 4 throughout the rest of the game. You're not going to see that again, like I was talking about. While they're not the greatest three-point shooting team, they're going to shoot it a lot better. So I think if you are the Bucks and a Bucks fan, the Nets kind of seem to kill you, I wouldn't feel too bad. And I have a stat coming up that'll make you feel better from Shot Quality. Shout out to Shot Quality. They're not sponsored by any means, but awesome account. I would go follow them on Twitter, go to their website. The Bucks shot 9 of 38 outside of the paint today. So all their points came from the paint. And they were so dominant in the paint, I would have just kept going to. I know you want to... The 3-ball is what's going to help you win the series, especially against a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who seems to score pretty much every offensive possession. 30 points on 42 shots from Drew and Chris Middleton. It wasn't the greatest Chris or Drew Middleton scoring game. You probably got it right around Drew's playoff average, but definitely not the greatest Chris Middleton game. I would expect him to have a lot better of a game moving forward. This is just an insane stat for the Nets. The Nets are 32-0 this season when leading 14+ at any point in the fourth quarter or overtime. Regular season and playoffs. That's just insane. So the shot quality stat I was talking about was for the Bucks. They got a grade of 89, and the Nets got a grade of 78. With the shots that both teams took, shot quality gave the Brooklyn Nets a 42% chance to win, and the Bucks a 58% chance to win. And what I thought that all game that the Bucks were getting quality looks. They're going to be there all series. It's just going to depend on, can these guys hit shots and make timely shots and free throws. That's going to be the biggest thing for the Bucks, because honestly I didn't feel like their defense was all that bad. And then for Giannis, he had 30 possessions, 34 points, so he graded out exactly how many points he had, 34. Chris Middleton had 26 offensive possessions, 13 points. In a typical game with the shots that he got, he would have gotten 27 points. So that would be a really, really big difference for them, saying that they would have gotten like 14 more points from Chris Middleton. And that's a big difference in this game. You had 14 points to what the Bucks had, you could make an argument that they win. Maybe if you add it right now, obviously the Bucks would win, but that would mean that the Nets would have been playing harder in the fourth quarter and playing their starters. So I think it's still going to be a super fun, exciting series, and probably the series I'm going to enjoy the most in the second round, to be honest with you. So can't wait for game 2 tomorrow. Before I get into Clippers Mavericks, I'm going to go to Hawks 76ers. This was a interesting game. The Hawks were pretty much killing the 76ers all game, and then in the fourth quarter, the 76ers turned it up defensively, started turning the Hawks over, got back in it, got within 2 at one point. Hawks ended up winning by 4. It seemed over like 3 times, you could probably say, even in the fourth quarter. Trae Young played out of his mind again, 35 and 10. John Collins, 21 points. Bogdanovich, 21 points, 15 from Herter. He was really, really good. 3 of 6 from the three-point line. They got 8 from Lou Will, 9 from Gallinari. I thought Okongwu played pretty good defense on Joel Embiid. I don't know if it was because Embiid was hobbled or what. The fact that the Hawks looked as good as they did defensively, they were pretty good. Yeah, pretty good defensively. They able to turn the 76ers over a good amount of times. I think it was, 19 times they turned the 76ers over, probably without their best wing defender, or maybe even their best defender. And DeAndre Hunter was out with a sore right knee. Hopefully he's good to go and can play in the next game. But, they got... And then on the flip side, 76ers, it was so weird. Embiid had a great scoring game, 39 points. Tobias had 20, which I thought seemed more than he had. Curry went on a nice run himself there. In the fourth quarter, almost tying it up, I want to say. I can't remember exactly how close he got him in there with that timeout around the 5-minute mark. Ben Simmons was a bit more aggressive, which they're going to need. It was so weird because, like, with Embiid's knee, at times you're like, oh, he looks slower, but then he was just able to score so easily offensively. I think on the defensive end is where we saw the knee injury, and I'm so confused because, like, usually meniscus, especially, like, what, he partially tear it? Something scary like that. You wouldn't expect him to, A, be able to play, and B, play as good as he did, really, offensively. So, Trae Young, man. Trae Young was awesome. He had 12 points at the 2:33 mark in the first quarter, 7 points in a row at one point, 7 turnovers in the first 10 minutes for the 76ers. They had so many dumb turnovers. Really just shows like what not having like a true point guard. Like, I like Ben Simmons and the guards that they have, but they don't have like a true starting point guard that they play. You know, they have George Hill off the bench, but he's been all right. Nothing insane, honestly. The bench unit, I don't know what the hell Doc was doing. Down 20, playing the bench unit as much as he did. They started the third quarter down 20. ESPN gave the Hawks a 39% chance to win. They ended up winning, but definitely not in the fashion that we all thought it would have been. The 76ers had no answers for Trae Young. I ended up picking the Hawks just because of Embiid's injuries, and I just felt like they have so many guys that could score, and I like the 76ers defensively. I just thought that the Hawks could do enough, and we saw in game one that they were able to. I don't want to overreact too much, but they didn't start Simmons on Trae Young, which I thought was interesting. It was Danny Green, Tobias Harris, who just got cooked. Both of them basically got played off the floor defensively. Like, you know, Tobias had 20 points, but it was a terrible Tobias game in my opinion. He was bad defensively. They can't find anyone for him to guard in game one. I'm sure that would change in game two. And when they did put Simmons on Trae, they would trap at times, which would just make it so easy for Young, who would just pass it to Capella, or Capella would kick it out. He was able to kick it out to Herter a few times. Bogdanovich, like, if you're going to put Simmons on him, don't trap, in my opinion. And unless that shows a serious problem, that maybe they don't have enough trust in Ben Simmons. Like, I get at the end of the game trapping Trae because you gotta create turnovers, but you know, you're trapping him in the corners and whatnot when the Hawks are a bit lackadaisical. But Simmons really had no impact on Trae Young, honestly. Like, it was crazy. I know he wasn't on him a ton, but when he was, it was like he didn't necessarily stop Trae Young. So if you're a Sixers fan, that definitely scares me big time, because Trae pretty much did whatever he wanted to, just kind of like against the Knicks. So that definitely is scary. Philly missed 10 free throws, so there's 10 points right there. You could say gives them a win. Going back to the shot quality thing, based on the shots that the Hawks took and the 76ers took, like, I don't think the series is over by any means. Like, I still think the 76ers could win. They might. You know, it was definitely not a great game one. Based on the shots that the Hawks took, the Hawks were given a 26% chance to win. The 76ers were given a 74% chance to win. So definitely, if you're the Sixers and a Sixers fan, you could feel good about that, because they did get quality looks. You know, they missed a ton of them. But I would be a bit concerned just because Trae Young pretty much cooking everyone, and he was able to get to wherever he wanted to in this game. And the Sixers got nothing from their bench. 0 points, 5 turnovers, and they were outscored 10-0 in the first half. And finally, probably the game you guys have all been waiting for, Game 7 between the Clippers and Mavericks. Clippers won 126-111. It was a really good game in my opinion. You know, at the third quarter, the Clippers kind of ran away with it. The Mavs kind of gave the Clippers a run for their money a bit in the fourth, but at the end of the day, pretty much after like the 5-minute mark, the Clippers in the third quarter pretty much had it wrapped up. Luka was insane, 46 points. Kawhi himself was really good, 28 points, really good defensively, 4 steals. And it was very apparent, kind of even early on, the Clippers just had a bit too much. I'm not even like the biggest fan of the Clippers. Like, I'm glad that they actually played Kennard and he got 11 points and looked really good. Didn't understand why he didn't play. Glad, like, honestly, nothing against Zubac, but kind of for the Clippers, glad to see Zubac and Pat Bev not really play, because in my opinion they're not that good, especially Zubac. He just got killed in this series. Dorian Finney-Smith had a nice game for the Mavericks. Hardaway was alright with 11. It was on Hardaway. If every time Hardaway got 20 points, the Mavericks won, and every time he didn't, they lost. So really, Tim Hardaway Jr. was like their second best offensive player in this series, and Really relied on him a whole bunch. I didn't get Trey Burke playing over Jalen Brunson. I get it. He wasn't great. But he was so solid all regular season. I think he's way better than Trey Burke. So I didn't really get that. Josh Richardson's just been a whole disappointment really this season for the Mavericks. Boban, you could say, arguably at times was their second best player because obviously Porzingis is not. Hopefully the Mavericks can go get some better players. I don't know what the moves are because that's always the thing. Everyone's like, we got to get Luka a co-star or we got to get this guy a co-star, this and that. It's like, okay, who? And it's not that easy. Like, what are their assets? What are they trading? I don't know. I do hope that they can get some better players on this team, but at the end of the day, it's not a bad team. Like, Luka's only going to get better. Porzingis, he is what he is. It's a bad contract. You're taking another bad contract yourself, so what do you want to do there? Hopefully they re-sign Tim Hardaway Jr., and, yeah, we'll see what happens with that Mavericks team moving forward, because when you have a guy like Luka, you're always going to have a chance. I like what Eddie says. He truly is a LeBron in training. I thought early on Paul George needed to be more aggressive. Second half, 13 points. He was awesome. His point total isn't like insane for the game, 22. 10 assists, though. I thought he was an awesome playmaker. Like, I've always been saying, like, oh, I don't love Paul George as a playmaker. Not that he can't do it. Just want him to focus on scoring. And he was awesome as a playmaker today. Was pretty good defensively. 3 steals. Boban's size caused some real problems for the Clippers at times, and at other times it didn't really kill him. I liked the back cuts off of Boban when he got the ball in the middle. They tried that for a while. They were able to get Porzingis some points early on. Mavs led in the first half 5 of the 7 games. Insane how until game 7 the team finally won a game at home. You do not see that a whole lot. That not happening one bit. At 10 the third quarter, the Clippers won a 24-4 run, and that kind of pretty much ended it. And then the Mavs won a little run themselves, 13-3 in the fourth. And then when they got within 7, Reggie Jackson hit a 3, put it up to 10, and that was pretty much it. Luka was insane all playoffs. Luka has 5 40-point games. That's more than Damian Lillard, Carmelo Anthony, Tracy McGrady, Kyrie Irving, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, Tim Duncan, Karl Malone, and he's only played 13 career playoff games. The players above have played at least 50, so that's great company to be better than, honestly. Just the stats and everything for Luka is just insane. It's obvious he's going to be awesome, and we saw that the Clippers honestly just had a bit too much for the Mavericks, and Kawhi was awesome, man. Like, he was so good defensively, and, I wouldn't say he shut down Luka, but he made him work. He definitely made it the toughest, and I was kind of surprised, because honestly, I just didn't think he had it in him anymore. I just thought that Kawhi wasn't the same defensive player he was anymore, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just didn't quite see it. You know what I mean? I just didn't see it, honestly, and he turned it up defensively. He made Luka work. Luka hit some insane shots, but you could see he could just kind of ran out of gas, and the Mavericks as a whole did. They were fun all series. They made it a really competitive series. They were really fun. I'm not going to do a Vegas breakdown because kind of the series is over matchup-wise. And what the Clippers and Mavericks did wrong. I thought that the Clippers did a better job of blitzing him, trapping him, pretty much just throwing everything at him, and then it was no one else around. Luka really stepped up, which you've seen a lot, actually. So, I don't know. Like I said, I hope the Mavericks get Luka some better players, and that they can hopefully, because he's ready to win. He could go win a championship now. We've seen going against these Clippers teams, while they have collapse at one time and have so many concerns, they are really good, and they have a better roster and better players than the Mavericks at this point, but definitely the future is bright for Luka and the Mavericks, and can't wait to see what he's done. He's only 22 years old. It's insane. Please, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit the like button down below. Please share this with your friends, family, if they enjoy sports. And I think Eddie and I will be doing a recap podcast tonight. You can see that link in the description. Not sure yet, but if we do, you get more in-depth look at everything and hear us talk about it longer. And we'll see you in the next one.